Demon Slayer is one of RuneScape's most iconic quests, and due to the event that was RuneScape 3 Leagues, it was a quest I had to complete in that version of the game. While completing it, I realized that the quest had been reworked, and the thought occurred to me: old Demon Slayer was better. Before I go on to explain why I feel this way, I think I need to explain the differences between both, so here's a very short summary. In old school RuneScape, you talk to Ares, where she tells you about Delrith, a terrible demon that terrorized Varrock in the past, and that, while the Dark Wizards were actually trying to bring him back just now, and, well, since you're an adventurer, you need to defeat him. As a result, you need the powerful Silverlight, which actually doesn't have great stats, but, you know, let's suspend our disbelief for a second. This word is locked in a cabinet that requires 3 keys in order to be unlocked. You go on a journey to find each of the keys, which are being held by 3 keepers. Those keys are, you know, fairly easy to obtain, but require you to sort of like either do a task to prove yourself or just think a little bit about the solution in order to obtain the key. But after you obtain all of them, you obtain the Silverlight, and you go and defeat the powerful demon Delrith to save Varrock once again. In the RuneScape 3 version of the game, you talk to Gideon at the Varrock church and go down to a basement. Here you need to do 3 trials in order for the spirits to lower the protecting barriers that contain the Silverlight. These trials are fairly straightforward, although they focus on different things. One, you need to defeat skeletons, the other you need to answer questions correctly, and the last one you need to figure out a little puzzle. Simple stuff. After that, you grab the Silverlight, navigate to the dungeon located at the altar at South Varrock, south of Arbory, and you kill the Dark Wizards to progress through the dungeon until eventually you fight Delrith alongside Gideon, which will offer protection against Delrith's powerful attacks, at which point you save Varrock once again. Obviously, there is a bit more to this, but that's the gist of both quests. There was one funny thing I remembered when I was doing the RuneScape 3 version, however. I already did it before, and I think that speaks to a massive issue. The quest just wasn't that memorable. The thing is, compared to old school RuneScape, the last time I did that quest, in old school RuneScape, was in 2015, over 10 years ago, and more if you count the OG version. That one, I did it all the way back in 2009, whereas in RuneScape 3, I did it just 2 years ago. So, we have a question in our hands. How did I remember a quest I only did twice, with the most recent completion being 10 years ago, but I did not remember a quest I did just 2 years ago? Why is the old school RuneScape version more memorable to me than the RuneScape 3 one? Well, to answer that, we need to talk about what the quests do well, what they lack, and why I prefer the old school RuneScape version. And we will answer that right after I remind you to subscribe. Let's start with RuneScape 3. One of the things I noticed right from the get-go is that the quest is super simple, like incredibly simple. Most puzzles don't really require you to think much, and honestly even less the one where you just need to kill the skeletons. On top of that, another thing I noticed was that the entire quest happened in 2 dungeons. Silverlight is in a dungeon at the Varrock Church, and then Delrith is being summoned in the dungeon at the little altar south of Arbory at South Varrock. None of the quest actually happens in the overworld, comparatively speaking to old school RuneScape. The reason why this happens needs a little bit of context. This quest was reworked in 2013. This was a year after Yossi was released, right at the start of the God Saga. The God Saga has a lot of things surrounding it, but the most important thing is it established a focus on lore over adventure. From this point onwards, most quests focus on the impact they have in the world and how the story would progress from that point. While Delrith, and therefore Demon Slayer, isn't super connected to the God Saga, at least as far as I remember, and well, as you've heard in this video, I don't tend to remember much from RuneScape 3, but, you know, being one of the introductory quests, Jagex really wanted to make sure that players understood the type of quest that the God Saga would bring. Outside of the lore, the quest also focuses much more on its own epic tale. As much as I enjoy the old school RuneScape version, the RuneScape 3 Final Showdown is indeed better than the old school RuneScape counterpart. It simply it feels more high stakes, it feels more epic, even if it's a very low level introductory quest. This is something else that the God Saga did very well. They made every single quest feel very epic in nature. They made every quest feel like it was building towards something. No quest was just a little adventure. Well, I mean, okay, you did have some quests that were just a little adventure, but most quests related to the God Saga were building to something bigger, something more epic. And I would say that Jagex was actually very successful in doing that with Demon Slayer. The issue is that, well, despite all of the positives, this sacrifice inevitably comes with negatives as well. The quest being entirely done into dungeons can be a good thing because you get full control for the entirety of its surroundings, for the highest immersion possible for the player. But it can also feel really forgettable. On top of that, when every single quest has this sort of epic high stakes feel to it, well, it feels like no quest is really high stakes. This is an issue with the entire God Saga to me, where old school RuneScape had quests that felt different since they, were being approached from different perspectives. In the God Saga, every quest felt exactly the same stakes, the same story, which can create this fatigue and lead players to, well, actually not pay that much attention and not feel that immersed with what's going on with the quest itself and only pay attention to the lore. So, while the RuneScape 3 version might do a good job at giving players this immersive story and lore, it sacrifices everything else in pro of that goal. Contrasting that with old school RuneScape Demon Slayer, I would argue that old school RuneScape does a worse job at both delivering a compelling story and being a good quote-unquote quest. In old school RuneScape you can pretty much just drop the entirety of the quest at any time, meaning it's very easy for you to become distracted and not really feel the stakes that Varrock is about to go down. In a way, it's harder to make you believe the narrative because of how much freedom you end up having as a player during the quest, given that you can just go around Varrock anytime since that's where the entire quest takes place, so it's very easy for you to become distracted with both other players or other activities like killing Varrock guards for fun or just talking with other people. In terms of gameplay, the quest can also be very frustrating. While in RuneScape 3 the puzzles are pretty thematic and straightforward, in old school RuneScape some of them are, well, a bit out there, while others can just feel like a real head-scratcher. Take the key in the drain of the Varrock Palace kitchen, for example. It took me ages to understand what the hell I was even supposed to do there. In RuneScape 3, you never really run into this issue with a quest because the puzzles are super easy. However, with all of that being said, those things can also make the quest strength. While yes, you can be distracted by other activities and sort of drop the quest, meaning the threat doesn't feel as immediate, because the quest allows that to happen by being in the overworld, it also does a better job at immersing you for that specific area of the overworld. Every time I pass by the Dark Wizard south of Varrock and look at the Broken Stone Circle, I recall my days of early adventure where I defeated this powerful demon right there and then. This is something I can't do in RuneScape 3, since the entire quest takes place in dungeons. As soon as you are done with them, the impact in the world itself just really isn't seen. It's a dungeon that you go for the quest and that you leave after the quest, and that's it. You never see the dungeon before or after. You can still go to it, sure, but because it's not in the overworld, it ends up feeling really forgotten. Later on, they actually do a much better job at this. For example, after one of the Dragonkin quests, you need to restore Edgeville, otherwise it's permanently burned. Ironically, they are removing the Lumbridge crater, so I guess they did not learn anything after 10 years of making a narrative that affects the world, but either way. In the specific case of Demon Slayer, I don't really remember the puzzles or the Demon Slaying because I never have to go there again and I never have been there before. It's a location purely for the quest, which makes it way more forgettable than if it was a place that you travel to and from quite frequently, which is the case with old school RuneScape, where south of Varrock and Varrock Palace are places that you do travel quite frequently. Take the Varrock kitchen and sewers, for example. Every time I pass that place, I remember of the time I suddenly remembered to try and get the damn key unstuck from the drain by just dropping water in it. Which brings me to the puzzles. While the puzzles might be more out there and as such be frustrating for players, once you do figure it out, it's actually hard for you to forget them. Once I had the brilliant idea to try and clog the key down the drain because I knew that Varrock had sewers, and that actually worked, I felt like so brilliant at the moment. I felt super smart. It's like my brain worked out a solution and that solution was actually viable. I'm still proud of figuring that out, and I still consider that to be one of the smartest moments I ever had in the game. The quest genuinely made me feel incredibly smart and incredibly astute for figuring that out. And that's the thing, compared to RuneScape 3, I don't care for the Demon Slayer puzzles there. They don't really come across as being memorable or anything because I don't really need to work for any of them. They were all super simple in order to be accessible. So, to start coming to a conclusion here, RuneScape 3 will do far more to take the quests and its puzzles more accessible because they want players immersed by the story and lore, sacrificing the immersion of the world and its activities, whereas old school RuneScape does the opposite. They want you to be immersed in the world itself first, and the quests are just another adventure that you, as the adventurer, goes on. As such, the puzzle sometimes can be frustrating and you can be distracted from the quest, which, makes you less immersed in the story itself, but you will forever remember the adventure you had at those locations because they happened where you are going to, where you are frequenting, where you are training, where you're talking with other people, where you just pass by. Both are valid approaches, but personally, I prefer the old school RuneScape more, feeling like I have an impact in the world and that I'm just an adventurer trying to have fun and answer the questions that I have about the world and learn more about it. All of that is just more satisfying to me, and it leads to what I consider personally to be a more satisfying gameplay loop as a result. And before anyone in the comments starts being smart and assert that, oh, but I see old school RuneScape is so much better than RuneScape 3, what I omitted from this video is that while the approaches are different and the goals are different, modern RuneScape 3 and modern old school RuneScape quests borrow far more from each other than people realize, which leads to a lot of these issues actually being quite minimized and the quests offering a better balance between both things. Both games learn from each other, and nowadays both games are better at doing quests than they were. Both games have benefited from the different approaches that they have done and learned from it. And there we have it. While yes, I do prefer old Demon Slayer and I do think it was better, I don't think it was better by an objective perspective. I just prefer the way it did things and the goals it did have. That does not diminish the, immersion that players might have had with RuneScape 3's Demon Slayer, but personally, that just wasn't my case. But, that's it for me. Don't forget to leave a like in the video, and I will see you in the next one.